Well, in the last 24 hours, we've heard from both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Here's a bit of Kamala Harris finally conceding the election after making her supporters stay out, waiting for her to come and talk until 12:45 a.m. election night.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars.
And here's what Joe Biden had to say Thursday.
Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve.
Well, I'm joined now by Annelise Nielsen, Washington correspondent for Sky News. Annelise, what did you make of Kamala Harris's concession speech?
Look, I know people got worked up she didn't speak on the night. It's poor form, but I don't think it's that big of a deal at the end of the day. I think it shows that she wasn't prepared for the possibility. Her campaign team should have known, if this isn't going to be looking good, get her out early, say thanks and leave, which is what Joe Biden did in 2020. And I know it harks back to the Hillary Clinton kind of tantrum days. And it's not great when she's trying to break this glass ceiling as a woman, because the assumption is, oh, she's too emotional to come out, which is just the kind of thing that gets thrown at women all the time. I'm with you on all of that, but at the end of the day, I think it was just so much on Trump anyway.
Sure. But, you know, I thought the much more interesting speech was one given by Joe Biden. And I was watching that today. I felt like he was actually kind of happy about everything. What do you think?
No, that's been the conversation for a while. He really thought he was the only guy that could ever beat Donald Trump, and now he has the proof. And so there's, I think, that sense of schadenfreude. He's kind of happy she failed because it just reinforces what he thinks, and there's no way to prove him wrong. And he's so far removed from the reality of how bad the situation was. And then the fact that you have her campaign staff saying that we did the best we could to dig ourselves out of the hole we were put in, like, you can see the infighting's coming.
Oh, yeah, well, the infighting's coming, but also you've got to figure, you know, if you're Joe Biden, you've been muscled out of this race by Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and had your vice president put in over you. I mean, he must feel a little bit of schadenfreude, you've got to expect.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, there's little, I've seen people talking about Jill Biden going to vote in a red suit because it's such a traditionally Republican color.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that commentary, but at the end of the day, I think now he just really gets to have this idea with him that he was the only one that could do it. And the shame of all of that is that his one promise to America was, I'm going to rid you of Donald Trump. For his supporters, that's all they cared about, and he's just done nothing but deliver him right back to the same spot.
Do you think that if Joe Biden had stayed on the ticket, the result would have been any different?
No. What they should have done was really push him out 2 years ago when we started seeing the evidence of his cognitive decline. And I think this has been the biggest issue of this 4 years, and this is why people didn't trust the media when they were being told what was happening in this election. They didn't trust the government when they were being told, because his cognitive decline was so obvious. Everyone saw it. It was a well-known issue well before the debate, and they should have been pushing him out when he was saying, I'm going to run again, because frankly it was an absurd premise. And if they'd had open competitive primaries, there's a lot of talented Democrats out there that could have taken it on, and that's the opportunity they took away.
Indeed. And now the campaign is over. You know, we know the results, and amazingly, the Democrats aren't going to contest after all of that talk that they were going to figure out some sort of legal avenue or take to the streets or whatever. But it sounds like also the Democrats are just plain flat broke. Tell me about this, because I saw today they went through in 107 days $1 billion with a B dollars and have wound up something like $20,000 or $40,000 in debt. This is like some sort of political version of $40 million in debt. This is like some sort of political version of Brewster's Millions, where they've just got to spend all of the money. What happened? Where did all of this cash go?
Well, I'm really interested to know if there's going to be some kind of economic stimulus benefit from all this, because we know it has a big impact on local TV ad buys and all of that. I think a lot of donors are going to be asking where this money goes, where it's gone, because no one really knows yet. $40 million and $118 million in the final stretch, the final month.
Yeah.
That is an extraordinary amount of money to go through in that amount of time. And I mean, they're paying for flights, they're paying for venue locations. I suspect a few celebrities.
I was going to say, do you think some of those celebrities may have, got a bit of the coin,
which
a bit of the appearance
completely undermines
fee?
the whole premise.
Oh, but I thought all those celebrities were so genuine, Annelise. But, the other thing, too, about that campaign, because you covered the campaign and you were there with Kamala Harris throughout this, and you were at the Democrat convention. One thing we spoke about, and I'd love to hear your take on how this worked out for them, is the whole program of, hey, saying, we don't need the normal media, we're going to go through influencers and get a bunch of TikTok kids and Instagram kids. This has completely failed to launch, hasn't it?
Oh, I think it is, as a journalist,
yeah,
we really care about holding these people in positions of power accountable and telling the truth. They completely sidelined the media. At the convention, they had a special pit on the floor just for influencers, and I think it shows how low value those people are and what they produce. Because people switch off. There's no analysis from having influencers, there's pretty pictures, and I think it was symptomatic of their broader problem where they thought if they could get everything looking great, everyone would just assume things were fine. And the other thing I remember from the DNC is how they excluded the pro-Palestine element of the party. And it doesn't matter whether you're sympathetic to the cause or not. That is your party.
Yeah.
They are your base.
Yeah.
And they were left out on the verge.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to speak.
Yeah.
That is so unacceptable for the entire premise of what a convention is. It is listening to the rank and file, and the Democrats came in and did the exact opposite.
And I want to explore this idea, though, of these influencers. As you say, it's just these, the kids with the selfie sticks and the cameras, and they're doing little things with, hey, Kamala's so great.
Yeah.
But contrast this with, I think, the Trump campaign also came up with something of a new media strategy, but that was really much more based around going on kind of long-form podcasts and things where there was actually questioning and discussion and debate. And I know these guys, a lot of them aren't professional journalists, but there's still that idea of exposure and give and take. I mean, what do you make of that strategy of giving people, that sort of window into candidates, those sort of long 1-2 hour sort of chats?
The complete difference in that strategy, and apparently it was Barron Trump did a lot of that, telling Donald Trump, you got to go do these podcasts. The difference in that strategy is those podcast producers, that element of the media, they are the ones who are filling the gap in the market from people who turn on the TV and hear that Joe Biden's fine. Yeah. And, what a surprise that Kamala Harris has taken over. We're all shocked. Yeah. Those kind of other elements of the media are the ones saying, of course we know this, and then they get the more in-depth, and then you get a more genuine perspective of the person. And so I listened to Kamala Harris when she did the Call Her Daddy podcast. Yeah. And that was...
What is the Call Her Daddy podcast again?
Well, it's a sex advice podcast.
Right.
So it was a very unusual strategy to go on that, to talk about reproductive rights. And that was her best issue to campaign on. She should absolutely have been out there talking about that. It was very persuasive with women my age, I know. But it didn't address what her history, or the record was, what she was going to do about it. And she didn't talk at all. And I'm personally pro-choice.
Sure.
I always try and put my mind in the position of the other side. She didn't talk at all about babies or children. It was all just about women, and it was just a really ineffective way to prosecute the case because you're not putting anyone's mind at ease who might disagree with you, and that's the problem. If you're going to sit there and just talk to people who agree with you, you're not going to make a case.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And finally, before I let you go, what happens, just to shift gears, there's so many of these legal cases that were out there, part of the whole strategy of getting Trump, shutting him down. Well, I've heard now that some of these cases against him, the sentencing is going to not happen. They're trying to figure out ways to stop the legal machinery against him in a lot of places, the Jack Smith cases. Tell us about what the latest is on that, and is this an end to the lawfare against Donald Trump?
Essentially, yes. So there's basically 4 prosecutions that have been going against Donald Trump. New York is the hush money case. So he's been convicted. We're waiting on sentencing. That's set for November 26. Realistically, if Merchant was going to try and put in any kind of custodial sentence, they're going to appeal immediately. And then that will be stayed pending the appeal, which is never going to happen. Once he's in power, all of those subpoena powers, the power to request that he appear in court, that goes by the wayside. When we're talking about the Jack Smith prosecutions about January 6th, the authority he has is under the Department of Justice, which Donald Trump will be able to squash that, and he can fire Jack Smith, which he said he's going to do. The Eileen Cannon classified documents case is essentially over now.
That's already
anyway.
been dead, yeah.
She said that Jack Smith didn't have the right to bring the case because it was outside of his
Didn't
power.
have standing.
Yep. He's fighting it. It's
not going to
gone.
happen.
And so Georgia's the last one that might hobble through. It's a state power, but at the same time, we're talking about a case that's still, they're trying to decide if the actual prosecutor can keep going with the case.
Yes, the Fannie Willis issues, yes.
Because of her relationship. So essentially, they're dead.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. All right, Annelise Nielsen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Nice to see you in person.
Good to see you here. Thanks.